Hello. So how do we use data to give good feedback? So we agreed in the last unit that feedback is very, very valuable to the teachers and the school culture. It is also very valuable for the students. And teachers are not always using effective feedback. So data is just one way where feedback can be very connected to actually what is happening. It's not random. For example, a teacher in the old-fashioned days would write on a paper, very good, excellent. They might put some stars on it. They might put some comments on it. Well, we're trying to get into more specific comments and feedback that will help the student improve. So, what can we do to teach the teachers or get the teachers to understand that data can be used directly for instruction? So, let's start with something as simple as rubrics. So, if a teacher starts using a rubric, and the teacher uses it well, what they'll do is they'll use the rubric before the assignment is given, along with the directions for the assignment and a verbal explanation for the assignment. They'll go over the rubric and what is considered poor or ineffective, and all the way up to exceed standards. And they'll go over each component of the assignment. And the students, as they're creating the assignment, they will talk about where they are in regard to the rubric. And the teacher can then give immediate feedback as to where the student needs to improve. They can look at their paper or their math test or the way they solve math problems and give very specific feedback as to where they can improve or where they shine. And this is a very good way to use data to inform instruction. It's a very simple way. And the beginning is the classroom. I mentioned measuring growth, but using feedback can happen even within a particular assignment. So you don't have to wait till the beginning or the end of the year to see if there's growth. Another positive about this is it creates an atmosphere where the students are now taking charge of their own learning. Well, guess what? We also want the teachers to do the same thing. We want them to set learning goals. And in order for them to set learning goals for the student, first they have to have the idea of how to teach the student using evidence rather than just random criteria and saying, well, the paper sounded good or it was creative. That can mean a lot of things to a student, especially the teacher may have a different idea than the student. So the use of a rubric, or at least criteria, is very transparent. And then the student themselves will be able to talk about the data that the teacher provides to them and their own learning growth. Now, this in turn can work for the teachers. I started to say that as well. If the teachers know exactly where her students are going or his students are going, where they came from, they can look at their own instructional practices. What worked, what did not work? Did I use data to divide the groups up very well? Maybe I made decisions that were not right for this class. They might be right for that class, but not right for this class. And the value of working with somebody else in a team teaching situation is that you can have small groups and you can have one teacher work with the students who need a lot of extra care and help. And then both of you can come together and talk about the value of how it worked out. So we can use data in a very simple way. But where does a leader come in? So when a leader is having a pre-conference with a teacher about a lesson, or even a meeting about how things are going, you can say, okay, so let's look at the data. How many students did well on this particular paper, and how many students didn't, and what were the weak spots and what were the strong spots? But where would you like to go? Would you like to have 80% of the students do well, or 50%? What is your number? You can have them set targets. Now, of course, there'll be people who can't set targets, or they'll be funny, or they won't have a connection, or they'll have not a true view of themselves. We always have that. But as time goes on and people get this habit of actually using the evidence and not just saying anything that comes to mind, it'll be a little bit easier. And I think that that direct connection to talking about evidence-based instruction and data-based instruction can help the school set their own goals. The goals can be toward accountability and standardized tests and so on, but the goals can also go into other areas of growth where the school needs to grow that are not instructionally related, such as attendance. Maybe the teacher has a 80% attendance rate. And you could start out by asking the teacher, do you think that's good enough? And the teacher might say, oh yeah, that's great. Last year it was 40%. And then you could say, well, can we set a simple goal of instead of 80%, why don't we make it 82%? So you can always use data to impersonalize, but make it also achievable for people. So that's just some of my ideas about how to actually utilize the data to inform the learning goals, inform instruction, and to bring it together. Now, how do we work with those teams, those data teams? Okay, so a couple of teachers are assigned to get together, assuming you have common time and you're able to do this. Let's say in a perfect world, we should be doing this, but I know how it is. So let's say you're doing that. So what should the teachers be doing? Well, that's up to you, but some of the ideas might be, if I were an observer and I came by your school, I might see people looking at student work or bodies of student work. And then I might see people identifying a problem, something that needs to be fixed. And I might see people then taking that one problem that needs to be fixed and working on it and coming up with ideas about why it was a problem, and also what's a hypothesis? What's a theory on how we could fix this? What are some ways that we think might work? Now, we might take something very simple so it can be doable in a week or two till we meet again, or we might decide to do a longer study of the problem and look at the root causes. It all depends on what the team leader wants people to do. Now, I've seen this done with attendance, and it's really awesome. It doesn't have to be a huge group of students that you work on, and often it's not successful if you have a very big group. But if you take a small group or one or two students and you really hone in on a problem and use data and find out what is going on, it can be very successful. Let's take an example. Let's say a student is not doing well and is always missing period 1. And the period 6 or 7, they do very, very well in terms of their attendance. So we might want to look at the root causes. Now we might say, they shouldn't be late. It doesn't matter where they're coming from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But if there's a way that we can meet as a team and work on that problem, instead of just saying, oh, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's going to help the school culture. It's going to set some kind of precedent and tone that what we are talking about in teams matters, and we're going to look at it as a team. So that's just a small example, not using instruction. But we can use instruction as well. We can find an instructional issue and find a solution to it. I think if you make it small and achievable and set specific goals and review the goals, it's really terrific. And also have a system, a computer system that everybody can have access to. Everybody doesn't have to have the highest level access, but everybody should have access to view exactly what the data is, even if it's not your student. If you want to see trends in the school, attendance trends or instructional trends, I think it's very valuable to be transparent so that all the teachers know it's a we problem. It's not a me problem. It is a we problem. So I leave you with that today, and hopefully we will have some good thoughts and discussions on data. So Auf Wiedersehen and have a great day.